All right, guys, a lot of you are asking me how to make a helicopter, and that's kind of complex for one reason is it's basically a normal vehicle that can fly. So I tried to simplify this as best I could, and I found a RC helicopter so we can just focus on learning the Lua script and how to make stuff fly. So this tutorial is a little rough just because of the fact that I'm just getting used to learning the new Blender. I know the old one and I miss the old one so bad, but I'm trying to show you guys how to do this with current software, which props to me for dealing with the stress to do it. So in this tutorial, we're going to cover everything in Blender is going to be this first section here, and finding a model on Sketchfab, putting it into Blender, unwrapping it, breaking it apart, and exporting it out into GE. And then GE is going to be a whole section on its own. So stick with me. Pardon a little bit here and there as I fumble around trying to learn all the shortcuts and keys and stuff. We'll get there one day. So thanks for being here, and let's get into it. All right, so let's hop on over to SketchUp here, and I've actually found something relatively simple. I wanted to remove a ton of extra things that you'd have to do. We're just focusing on how to install the flight script. So no player root, no complicating shenanigans. We're going to start off easy like this, and you guys can go download this if you want. Download 3D model. Think Balsar. When you do download the 3D model, make sure you pay attention to the license. And what that basically says is you're free to do whatever you want to it with this license, as long as you give appropriate credit. So you got to list this guy's name here. I just make sure you do that. Now they do have a plugin for Blender that allows you to just straight import this right into Blender, and we would basically just copy this link and open up our Blender, and we would import that link in there. Now that we are in Blender, over on the panel here, I have a plugin installed, and all you have to do is do a Google search for SketchUp or Sketchfab plugin. You'll find it relatively easy. If you don't know how to install plugins for Blender, YouTube it. There is a ton of videos on how to install plugins. I'm not going to cover any of that stuff, but we are going to go right up here where it says import from URL, and we're going to just activate our add-on. All right, so you can actually play around with this here too and do searches inside of the actual Blender, but we're just going to paste that URL we had and import in the model. It's going to take a hot minute, depends on how good your computer is. But once we get it in here, look how tiny and cute it is. Now we can start working on it, and then that will move us into our next section. Now, just a short disclaimer, I am just learning to switch over to Blender 4.0. I've been using 2.78b for 7 years, and I'm still learning this here because they changed some of the shortcuts. They definitely changed how the UI and stuff is, so bear with me as we go through this tutorial, but I am learning quick, trust me. One of the first things we want to look at is this dotted line. I noticed a lot of Sketchfab models have this. Not all the other ones you're going to be playing around with will have this, but this means it's parented. And the easiest way to get rid of that, because it'll start messing with you, trust me. When you're ready to parent, you can start parenting, but to stop it initially, we're going to hold Alt and press P, and we're going to go, oh, lost it. We're going to go clear and keep transform. Now that's going to get rid of that and make every part its own individual part, so we can start manipulating it a little bit here. Our next little journey here, we are going to start separating parts and joining parts. And what I'm talking about is, do you see how this little RC copter, in real life, this is going to be spinning, right? And this will be spinning, and this body will be the main body that we have going on. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start, we're going to hold shift and click on the props there. We're going to click on the center rotor, and anything that looks like it's going to be spinning with it, we're going to click on it. So we're going to click on that guy, and we can see that it, for the most part, it has every object that we need to create this as a single unit. So we're going to hit Control. Actually, hold on before we do that. I want to make sure that I have my origin set up properly. So let's switch back to our material view. Because when we do this, we're going to want to set the origin of our doohickey here. Sorry, got to remember all the buttons. So you're going to hit period, and it's going to bring, nope, not that one. Yeah, it is period. Nope, it's not. But we are going to change that active element. Individual origins. Which one was it? Median point? I don't remember. Anyways, hit enter or hit space, and we're going to type in origin. And we are going to, oh, we got to get out of the screen. Losing myself. We're going to hit Shift S, cursor to selected. Now, from there, now we are going to press the space bar. We're going to go to origin to 3D cursor. And that's going to put all of that doohickey stuff onto there. So we will click the props, we will click the main guard, and then finally, lastly, we will click on that piece we just oriented. And then after that, we will hit Control and J. And it's going to make it all one piece to where we can start rotating the helicopter here. That's what I was talking about, is getting used to the shortcuts. It still messes me up today, but the same concept is still there, so I can help you guys, because I know a lot of you use this new Blender. So let's do that again, and I'll try to make it not so clunky. So I have the prop selected right now, but I want this bar that goes right down the center, because that's what we're going to base our orientation off of. And then we will select it using L on the face. And if you're having a hard time selecting, go up here and you have vertice, lines, and faces. Faces make it a lot easier to select stuff. After we have it selected, we're going to hold Shift and A, no, Shift and S, cursor to selected. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to attach these two items, and then we're going to attach this item. And just make sure that there's nothing else that is going to be needing to spin on us. I think that's, for the most part, is going to be it. So now we are going to set our origin to the 3D cursor again. Okay, now we have on one of these axes, on the x-axis, a little, it's not exactly perfect. That's going to be some of the issues you run into, especially with wheels. When you're dealing with wheels on normal cars, the model won't actually be symmetry, so you kind of get this wobble a little bit. But for the simplicities of this video, we are not going to worry about that and move on, because we got this now separated. And now we have the rotors all done. Let's focus on the body. We're just going to start clicking on stuff and start attaching stuff to each other here. So holding Shift, I clicked on two items, and I hit Control J. Now, how this join item works is, say I want to, say I have the origins of this guy. So let's do origin to geometry, and you'll notice it'll put it like right up there somewhere. I actually don't want that, so we're going to select these two poles here, and then now we are going to move the 3D cursor to selected. It's not quite 100% where I want it. I want it directly at the center point. I guess we could just go to, I think it's world origin. Yeah, it's a little leaning back, so I'm actually going to select everything here, the whole helicopter, and we're going to bring this back just a hair to where it's about center. Okay, now that I have that, we're going to continue attaching everything. Control J. Make sure I got everything. Still got an engine to grab here. Control J. And if you really want to make this a little faster, you could technically select these two, press H to hide, and then select all here. And then we're just going to Control J the whole thing. And now it's all together. And what it's done over here, you got to pay attention to your materials now, which a lot of the models on Sketchfab, really nice that they have all the parts and pieces separated, because then you can easily go into your edit mode here, press P, and it'll separate again by material selection. So when we want to do our UV mapping, it's going to be really easy for us to redo all that really fast. So, but now that we have it all selected, we need to apply. Usually what I like to do is I hold Control A while I'm in my object mode, Control A, and it's going to bring up apply. And you're going to want to apply your rotation and scale, because it might be, it looks like we're good right here, but some models are just either ridiculously big, out of scale. Maybe you had to scale it to a player or whatnot. And we're just going to zero that out because it will affect your UV mapping. Now that we have that, let us pull this up, and we are going to go to this little clock guy right here. And this is going to allow us to find our UV editor. And from here, we are going to go back up to our main screen, press tab to open up our edit mode. And from here, we're going to press U to unwrap, and we're going to choose Smart Unwrap. Now, this is by choice. Sometimes when you put too big of an island margin for your UV unwrapping, it'll break every single face into its own little thing, and it looks kind of chunky when you go to UV wrap it. So if you experience that, lower your island margin down. And I know this model is going to do that, so I'm going to make it really low. You might get a little bit of clipping with textures and whatnot, but at least it won't make the whole model look really bad. So after we have it all unlocked, we can see that it did exactly what I was talking about. So we're going to actually try to do this without any island margin, as much as I don't like doing that, because it just, the island margin is how close stuff is together on the map. See here, you have two different faces of these face selections here, and they're very close. But it did clean up the models so it won't look so splattered. You're still going to have a ton of stuff on here, and that's just because of the Sketchfab models, how they work. So now we have the whole thing UV unwrapped. This is great at this point. Now that we have it all selected, unwrapped and everything, we're actually going to apply a modifier. So if you click on the little wrench right here and then you go to add modifiers, we are going to look for edge split. Once you find edge split, it'll apply it. And what this is going to do is going to stop the model from being super shiny, chromy looking when you import it into Giants. And you really want to do this. You don't want to do the manual edge split, because this you can take away, the manual edge split you can't. If you don't know what I'm talking about with manual edge split, don't worry about it. Just use this method. Now that we have the edge split applied, we are going to actually separate these all back out again. And the cool thing is each individual model part will have edge split applied. So after we hit unwrapped here, now we're going to start UV unwrapping. And like I covered earlier in this course, you are going to need the UDMI plugin from Vertex Design that allows you to pick and move around your UVs. Hey everybody, little disclaimer, mid-tutorial here. This is the part of the tutorial where I dinked up a little bit, because not only am I getting to know Blender, but I'm also using the new Simple Bake plugin, which I'm about ready to talk about. And I was under the understanding that it would unwrap everything and then put it all back together, and I'm not smart enough yet to figure that out. So what I should have did right here is just did a normal bake before I started moving all my UV maps all around and stuff like that. And later on, about 15-20 minutes from now, you'll see me redo all this and fix my AO bake. Now, AO baking is not necessarily something that a beginner would do. I would say you could just use the stock in-game stuff and it'll look just fine for right now. But if you want to start taking it to the next level, then I would watch this section. If not, kind of fast forward a little bit until we get into the export section. Now, let's start manipulating some of these UVs a little bit. I have the main cover, I guess you could call it, the windshield selected here, and we want that to be color selectable. If we looked over here in our auto material section here, you'll see color 0 through 7. Now these are all color selectable via XML once we get it in game, and then you have our predefined ones of like painted metal, scratchy, bumpy, all this kind of stuff. There is a website if you're curious about what these actually look like. We'll bring that up right now. And that is going to be this website, Farming Simulator 22 Asset Browser. It's assets.mantrid.net. You can come here and see what each and every material is going to look like once you throw it in game. Super useful, super useful. So we did that color select, and it moved that UV all the way over here off of the main screen. Now, if we were to use the move by grid, we can see that it moved it. So we have one. Wait. That messed up. The color select should be down. So if we hit color select, it should go down. I must have tapped a button when I when I was switching my screens there. So now that is color select, and say we wanted to make it color select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I have found if you are going to be switching to these other predefined ones, it's best to go back to the beginning and then click on that, and then you'll get a proper doohickey. So, but we want this color selectable. We're going to leave it like that and move on to the next piece here. We want this metal here, possibly. We're going to make it color selectable just so we have unlimited choice later on down the road. So we're going to hit 1 on that one. And as I am color selecting these guys, I like to group them. So selecting both and then hitting Control J, and it'll group them there. And then we could just keep clicking down the line here. We have something that looks pretty metally looking, right? So we're going to pick something that looks metally looking. Probably the silver bumpy looks the best, and we can take a peek at that inside of here. Silver bumpy right here. Maybe. Loading. That looks pretty good. So let's hop back to Blender, and that's what those areas right there are going to look like. So now we can select the prior one and hit Control J and merge them now that they are UV unwrapped. And we're going to go to the second one now. Now I actually don't like that. I want to use a different one, so I'm going to show you how to do that too. So from here, we can press C to inside of our UV editor, and we can actually select everything like that, right? Then we go down here to move by grid, and we're going to move it back to here. And I actually want to do it silver scratched. Oh no, we messed that up, Master. What happened? Okay, so it didn't like that one. Didn't like that one. So it looks like there's a little bug in their plugin software. So we're going to manually do this. Just pay attention to where this is up here. We're going to move it up just like that and see if that works. So let us go through, and actually we're going to hit undo here, and we're going to manually move everything since it wants to be difficult on us. Go up. And I actually thought it was, that one might be black. We'll go right to there. And we're just manually moving our i3Ds. Now this guy actually is the one that I want to be silver and bumpy. So we can come here, and now we can apply him into the group. And we're getting ever so close, ever so close. Let's keep grinding away here. We have our next one. This looks like to be nuts, bolts, and everything in between. I don't know what we want this one to look like. Let's look at the rest of the items around here. I'm thinking kind of probably go with that metal bumpy again, like what we did before, the silver bumpy. So I like that one a lot. It has good texture to it. Oh, hope you're still with me here. This is a tedious, daunting process. It's actually pretty simple as long as you give it a chance. So now we have this one selected. I want to make that one silver scratched as well. And we can tell that it only went up 1 right here. So I think we actually messed up when we did this. And these guys that we have all the way up there, they actually need to come down 1. Paying attention. Little silly stuff. So now that we have that guy, we can apply him with him. And we're slowly getting down to the wire here of models inside this thing. What's this? This is like a gold looking thing. Is there more than one? No, there is not. So we are going to let's make that brass just to play with another color. So we have brass scratched here. And it'll take it all the way up over there. And we will hit Control J. Now there's a pretty important step that I skipped in the very beginning because I use a plugin called Simple Bake. It cost me 18 bucks. It's great. I really recommend this if you're going to try to make textures. If you're just going to throw it in without textures and just use the in-game stuff, you don't really need this. But if you want to make some really good textures, I really recommend getting this plugin. All right. That plugin has the ability, now that we've UV unwrapped everything and moved it all around and all this stuff, this plugin has the ability down here to detect UDMIs and remake the texture so we can actually do baking once it's UDMI'd. Without this plugin, I'm not 100% sure how exactly you would bake. You'd have to re-UV map everything bake it and then move these parts around to get a ambient inclusion. All right, just wrapping up the last few little models in this that we need to do. This looks like more like a transparent fuel line. We could play around with that if we want, but for right now, we're actually just going to select that to color 2 so we can manipulate it inside Giants Editor, and then we will attach it to the rest of the body. And I do think we're going to hit hide. Oh, there's a little bit. What are these? I didn't even see those. Alt-H. I mean, I don't even really think we need that in there. You got to look at these 3D models, and sometimes if the parts and stuff like that are all hidden inside of it, there's almost no purpose via the game to have it in there. So we'll take a look at that right now and see if we're going to leave it in or not. All right, it's not crazy amount of models. So what we're going to end up doing is let's UV unwrap these just like we would anything else. We do have a rubber in here, so we're going to apply rubber. And then let's go to the next one. That looks kind of metally, so let's just go painted metal black on that one, and we're going to combine the rubber with that guy, start limiting our amount of models we have. There's another black one. That's a little bit different color though, so you got to kind of play around with a little bit, and I almost like to call it painting. So I think I'm just going to make this one black too, just so nobody's going to see it. It's your best judgment. Okay, this is all you here. I don't know what that is, but it looks like it'd be cool. Brass, so we're going to make that brass. And essentially, I'm just UV mapping as I go here. I'm not really sure. We're just going to go silver scratched on that one. Like I said, nobody's going to see that part. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. We have a little bit of wire. We're just going to make them all rubber as well. Not too stressing about it. And I think that is everything in this set of models. We can just hit hide, and if there's nothing, wait, that's that little itty bitty thing right there. Do you see that? What is that? I don't know what that is. So X edge, delete. Thank you. Have a good day. Okay, so that is everything UDMI'd. There's nothing left on the screen here. So we'll hit Alt-H to unhide everything, and then we'll zoom down on it. Now, we did not do the rotors yet, but we did do the whole body. So the whole body is UDMI'd. That's super nice, which means at this point, we could technically go right into here, and this is our materials section right here, right? And we need to go through and limit this down to just one material. Hey, so little interjection again. I know. I'm a horrible tutorial maker, but I would recommend you make a duplicate of everything that you have there. Let's say you have identical to what I have of the body, the rotors. Make a duplicate and put it on another collection page. Just in case you mess up, you have a model that has all the materials still attached. It makes it a lot easier to UV wrap stuff if you have a backup of it, essentially. And also allows you in the future to come back and make edits if you want to. Just a little food for thought. Let's carry on. You could do a ton if you really wanted to, but for simplicity's sake, trust me. Limit this down to just one material. Okay, once you remove, I recommend removing all of the materials and then applying a new one, because sometimes there's some special stuff attached to it that you just can't see, can't control, or maybe outside of your scope to fix. So I just start with a new material, and then you're going to select just a random little bit of an off color here. And we have edge split applied, should be applied. This thing is ready to be imported into Giants. So before we do that, let us do the identical thing that we just did to the body, but I'm not going to record that part. I'm going to do it off screen. Actually, I decided I'm going to do a little bit on screen here. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to take this one, and we're going to connect them together. But first, before I do that, I'm going to go to cursor to selected. So I have that origin saved. Okay. And then we're going to apply these two together. So Control J to join them. And now from here, we are going to press A to select all, and then we're going to hit unwrap, smart unwrap. Actually, let's do scale to bounds. Okay, now that is, let's take a look and see if it looks choppy or anything. It looks okay. For what we're trying to do, it looks okay. This thing is going to be tiny, 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 tiny. So now after we have it UV unwrapped, we are going to separate by material and then start playing our game here that we did earlier with moving UVs around, silver to bumpy. Okay, we got our black here, and we're just going to choose painted metal black. And then for this one, we are going to do silver scratched. So those all should technically, so let's attach them all now, join them together. Make sure we got everything that we were looking at. It looks like we do. Okay, so let's go to our wireframe view now, and we're actually going to deselect. So I hit C and middle mouse button click there. We will separate by selection. Now that we have that selected, we're going to go origin again, origin to 3D cursor. Now that guy is set up and ready to rock and roll, minus he needs a edge split modifier. Edge split. Okay, let's do the identical thing to this back rotor now. And from here, same thing, we're going to go into edit mode. I will go into material preview so you guys can actually see. We already did this a little bit ago, but then I jacked it up because I'm not perfect. We're going to go cursor to selected, and then back out of there, and then we'll go origin to 3D cursor. Okay, now that we have that going, everything's UDMI'd. And let's, I couldn't remember if I did this a second ago. There we go. So now these are on two completely different UV maps, right? So when we import this in, we're going to have a total of 6 textures if we were making our textures in Substance Painter, but we're going to keep it relatively simple. And so let's go through and strip off those materials like we did before. And we're just going to put in a rotor. And same thing over here. We can actually go through and find it now that we have it in there, and we'll hit back, delete those off of there, give it a little bit of a tint. If you don't add a little bit of color, sometimes Giants will intermix all the materials when you go to import it in, and you don't want that. So just a little bit of a color, and try not to make it the same color as the other objects. So now we got this guy, he's UV unmapped, he's UV'd, and he is UV'd. We are ready to export into Blender. First, I would like to use the Simple Bake plugin, and we're going to try to use that to show you how to make a ambient inclusion map. So that'll be in this little exporting section. All right, so I'm still getting used to the Simple Bake option. I did get the body baked right here, right? And what I did is I actually ended up having to take my other model, which is this one right here. Well, it doesn't look very good because it's, go to solid. This is the original that we have UV unwrapped right here, where all the textures are set. And then I made a duplicate of it and then basically unwrapped it again. That way I could remake the texture. So this one is the same format and all that kind of stuff. It's identical, but then I was able to use the Simple Bake. I haven't quite figured out all the quirks to this, but I'm getting there. This is how I ended up. I probably should have showed you this at the beginning, but I had this working the other day. Not 100% sure. We'll figure that out, but I'm trying to help you. I hope you get somewhere in life. So let's look at the Simple Bake options here. And what I did to get my ambient inclusion is I selected ambient inclusion, and I'm going to deselect that denoise, but I left this one on. I'm not on cycles render, but it seemed to create a better image for me. And then we have our bake width, height, and then this is what the outputted texture will be. You can change this between half of this number or whatnot, but this is about the max you want to go. I'm going to clear existing bake image before bake, and then we're going to export bakes to this file path right here as a PNG. Keep internal images, auto detect UDMIs, and prefer existing UDMIs called Simple Bake, and then it'll restore the originals at the end. Now I'm ready to hit bake. Let's apply that to these rotors now. So I did the same thing. I duplicated it, and then I imported it to a different collection here so I couldn't see it. And this is the version. We're just going to unwrap these again. And it's going to be identical to the one. Now, if you catch this before I walked you through all the UV mapping, good for you. But from here, we should be identical to the other one, and we should be able to bake a whole new texture. So let's, now that we have this model selected, let's go here, and we're going to go clear, and we're going to click add. And now we have the rear rotor added, and scroll down here to bake. It should bake us up and create the texture for me. Hopefully. Go in. And now I have the, it doesn't look very good though. So we're going to apply that denoiser one more time. Instead of applying the planar out the denoiser, we're actually going to lift this up into the sky a little bit because I think it's overlapping with the other collections. I'm still getting used to this blender, but I'm pretty sure it was overlapping. So we're going to hit bake on that again and see what it looks like. That is night and day difference. Night and day difference. Okay. Little noisy, but it's such a tiny helicopter. I'm not 100% worried about it. But we can go back to our other collection now, and we can start exporting out in the next selection. If I can find a freaking button where, there we go. So now these guys are still UV unwrapped and ready to rock and roll. And they should match up just perfect with what we created. From here, we're going to want to create some collisions. So I have my cursor at the center of the model right there. I'm going to hit Shift and A. We're going to bring in a cube mesh, make it a little smaller here. And we're basically going to make a little section here. And this is where everything is going to get a little simple, I guess you could say. Because we are just going to, Giants is a very simple game. It does not have complex collisions and crazy stuff like that. So we can essentially build ourselves a little box that would allow us to operate normally. I'll go G, oh, up. I'm still learning the hotkeys here. And probably pull that one back a little bit. Actually, we're going to select this. We're going to tilt this back up. That was the bevel command. I clicked on the edge and then I hit Control B. And we're going to do the same thing here. Give it a little bit of a bevel. Actually, not too crazy like that. Same thing up here. And then from this one, we can figure it out some way. Sink these guys in on the sides. Actually, before we do that, we're going to throw a thing in the center there, and then scoot these guys in, scale inward. Hopefully we got a little weird situation here going on with an ingone. I'm gonna remove that last little doohickey I did right there, but we are gonna pull it in. That'll work. That will work. Now that's gonna be our main body. That is going to be our main component, and then we're going to make a child collision off the back here. So I'm going to select that face, hit Shift D to drag it, and then hit P to separate it. From here, where'd that face go? I just had that face. Darn you, Blender. Work for daddy. Work for daddy. This gets frustrating. Okay, figured that out. The life is hard, life is tough. Basically, I'm gonna line that up with the back wall again because I jacked it up best I could. And then from here, we are going to go into our edit mode, select the face, make sure we're in face selection, go extrude, and we're gonna go all the way to the back. But at the back, we are going to select our little line doohickey right here. And we're going to squeeze that in and then probably lift it up. Wait. Something similar to that. Then we can come down here and select our line tool again. But bring that one down. And now we kind of have a working little rigid body in here. We're going to scoot this in too. There we go. There we go. So this is going to be a child collision, and this is going to be our main collision. And we will want to, when we have it selected, we want to hit Control and A to fix the rotation and scale on both. Okay, and then this guy, we want his origin to be the cursor. So let's actually go cursor to world origin, and then we're going to go origin to cursor, because that's going to be our main component flight there. Okay, I think that honestly is everything we need to do for us to start importing into Blender. All right, just a recap before we start importing into Blender. You're going to want to look at all the models that you're going to be bringing in. Make sure that the origins, you see that little dot right there, that's the origin. That's where it's going to spin. Make sure those are all lined up. And same thing with there. Next, we're going to want to double check our textures or our materials and make sure that everything that is going to have a different material. So these rotors are going to be on the same texture, and this helicopter is going to be on a completely different texture. So we want to make sure that those actually have different colors. We're just going to pick color. Listen to me. Color attribute. No, you know what? You're being difficult beyond all belief. I could just make a new material. It doesn't really matter the name on it. For the essence of time, we're going to slack off a little bit on that. So we got the body. Don't worry about that right now. So let's actually select 1, 2, and 3. Let's go over here, i3D exporter. If you don't have this, go to the Giants website and you can download it and install plugins. So once we have all three of these items selected, we're going to go to attributes, and let's just cycle through everything here. We do not want it to be a collision, not these guys at least. And then let's go to nothing in joint that we need to look at. Rendering, cast shadow, receive shadow, rendered in viewports. We want all that. We are going to set our clip distance from here to 300. This is how far you can see it. And visibility conditions, nothing to change in there. Object texture data, export position scale. Pretty sure that's going to be it. So now that we have all that selected, we're going to go apply selected. Scroll all the way back up to this huge list. Double check our materials. Looks like you can assign shaders here too. That's kind of wild. I never got that deep into it. Kind of neat. So we're going to pick a location where we are going to export it and start going from there. Okay, I have my export area all set up. I have my i3D set i3D. And I do believe we are ready to export. So we're going to hit export and wait for this to do its thing. Now that it has exported, let's open it up in Giants Editor now. There it is, our little helicopter, our tiny little guy. Zoom on in on him. Yeah, look at that. All right, and we got our, let's just double check our orientation, all this stuff. Come on, give me that top rotor. It's so tiny. Sweet. Look at this. We're making a little RC helicopter. Isn't this neat? Double check this last one. It's so tiny, it's hard to click on. Okay, so yeah, that's freaking awesome, right? Right, we're getting somewhere. Now, pretty simple in here. It gets kind of dark, not gonna lie, so I like to add a light right off the bat and kind of angle it at the model so you can see what the textures look like. Now, let's go track down the AO bake image that I made earlier. So clicking on the gloss map right here, and we are going to go hunting for that guy wherever he is. Okay, so we have our ambient occlusion that I tracked down, and when we go to import it into the Giants Editor, it will convert it from a PNG to a DDS and then crash like that. Okay, and if you experience a crash or random stuff like that when trying to convert textures, we can actually just drag those into paint.net. We're going to open up each individual one. We're going to double check the size. It's 2048. Sweet deal. And we're going to pick this little bright green color right here. And under layers, we're going to create a new layer. Where's our tools at? We're going to dump that green over the top of it. Double click on the layer and then go to here to multiply. Now that multiply is going to add this green all over to it. We want this. We want this. Now we're going to hit save as. Now when saving your file names, you're going to want to do direct draw DDS, and you want to make sure that there's no weirdness in it. Now, do you see this space right here where it says rear rotor? That's weird to the game. We would want to remove that so it all reads. You can do these underscores, those are perfectly fine, but oh, right here, ambient inclusion, you set space right there. We want to get rid of that. And then from there, I think that all reads very well. We'll hit save. And we're going to do the same thing on this one. Now, I do want to cover, we're going to do that one more time. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to drop that green on there. We're going to switch this to multiply. Okay, same thing, save as. And we're going to select DDS. Same ordeal here. We want to make sure that we don't have any spaces. RC body PBR. It looks good to me. Now, pay attention to this screen really fast. When you're saving your DDS images, you want to make sure for this type of image, when you're making vehicle textures and stuff, it's different for other stuff. But just for this, you're going to want to go DTX5 or BC3. And I usually use these settings right here, generate bitmaps, use gamma correction. And that's just kind of my default that I never really have problems with. It might be wrong, might be right, I don't know. But it works for me, so it might work for you too. So we'll hit OK, and it's going to flatten the image. That's perfectly fine. And there we go. We should be able to open up Giants now and apply the textures. Okay, now let's try that again. One more time. Come on, Giants, be good to me. So we picked the body, right? Okay, we have the body, so we're going to want to select that. Look at that, didn't crash. Looks a little odd though, doesn't it? Maybe that's a reflection. I don't know what's going on right there. That's odd. We might have to go look at that in Blender. I don't know what happened. Let's apply a shader, try to figure out what's going on with that. That might be something to do with the model. And this is stuff you're going to run into too. Just random WTF moments. So it looks like that UV bake that I made is garbage. It's not liking that at all. And I think I know why. So with that being said, I will be right back. Oh, the silly stuff. So actually when I UV unwrapped it, the models weren't identical. So I went back through and just made sure they were identical. So this might be a little bit too complex for this tutorial, actually making textures. That'd probably be something else in the future. But I do have to do the same thing with this rotor. So might as well take you along for the venture. Thank you so much for the support. And I hope you learn from my mistakes. I'm leaving this section in the tutorial just because I would like to show you how I fix this and how, maybe you can correct yourself in the future using these same tools. If not, you can probably skip over the next 2 or 3 minutes. But let's get into it. So I have the original, what I imported in. They're all separated. They're all set up. We are going to duplicate them, and then we're going to move them to a different scene, probably the upper scene up there. 1, 2. So now that we have them in there, we're going to move them up so they're not intersecting with the other models and create a black thing. Now we're going to join them together, Control J, and then from here I have to manually separate all this crap. So wish me luck. Wish me luck. I'm going to basically go through and select all these faces and remap them so I can redo the whole UV map since I dinked it up the first time. Essentially, I am just moving these all around. And I got to reorientate the faces so they're in here and we can UV map them. So this is kind of tedious crap. I'm not even gonna lie. Very tedious. Okay, I think we are done. Oh, no, one more. Move that down, and I think now we are done. So from here, we have these two guys selected. We're going to clear our bake, and we're going to change the name of this. So we don't have to do all that stuff again, okay? And then we'll add that to there. And now we should be able to bake our image. Baking in process. Thank you. All right, and I have my image now. Same ordeal. You guys are gonna get this painting down really, really good. I know that. Let's go like that. Go to multiply, then we'll go up and we'll hit save. Save as a DDS. Double check our name. Make sure, no, right there, same thing. Okay, then we'll hit save. It should bring up all of our option menus. Hit OK. Now this rotor should work perfectly on this guy here. I really hope so. I really hope so. Come on. Let me select you. Why don't you let me select you? Thank you. Come on. Who's your daddy? So I should be able to just update that texture. Or it's a new one, huh? Nope. It worked perfectly. Looks nice and clean. Okay, now that we have this, let us let's move on to applying the shader and start doing the color select stuff. From here, we have our child collision and we have our main component. Let's do the child collision first. So we're going to click right here, compound child, click collision, and we're actually just going to hit apply wherever that little, guess we could close some of these. Oh, we could technically go to visibility, but we will do that inside of Giants Editor. Okay, next we are going to go to this guy. Now this guy we don't got to do too much with personally. A lot of what I do is inside Giants Editor with this guy, but this we did need that applied. So let's take these two bad boys right here. We're going to origin this to its own geometry. And that's origin to the bottom. Now let's export them out into the new world. Welcome, children. Welcome. Export. Export selection. Now that technically did replace this file that we have open right now, but we can cheat a little bit and just leave the file open and re-import itself and then hit save really fast, because if it crashes during this time, you're kind of screwed. Not gonna lie. So we got our main. We're gonna call this a comp. And then we are going to have our child col. Okay, sweet deal. We are 100%. Now from here we can go to shape. We can click on non-renderable for both of these guys. Non-renderable. You can double check that it has a collision mask and all this stuff. And we're going to need to import a hex code, but we're not quite at that point yet, and we also are going to be changing this to a rigid body. You're going to need to set your clip distance at a 300. I thought it applied. We're going to hit save, and that is going to conclude everything for getting a model from Blender to Giants Editor. I will be having another tutorial that covers getting this bad boy working in-game, because it's a lengthy process as well. That concludes this session. If you enjoyed it, please let me know. You know I love that kind of stuff. And if you got any questions, please leave a comment down below wherever this is posted, and I'll do my best to help you.